Hi, this is Kate from Izzalicious Designs. Today I'm going to show you a very brief video tutorial on how you can use a single loom, and it has to be one that you can take apart with the base plates because we're going to be using the move it forward technique to make any size mural that you're after. If you don't have a nifty knitter or 900 looms to put together, you can just use a single loom. It's not that hard. First of all, let's talk about the pattern. Now, I've just picked any old pattern. I went to braceletbook.com and I wanted something that had a bit of length to it or height to it. Now, yes, I could turn it around this way, and we only have 11 pegs here. Each row corresponds to a space in your loom. So if we were really doing this one properly, we could use a single loom and you use 11 pegs, which means you come down to this spot here. You don't use that last space, and you just keep moving it forward until, well, this goes to 70. So you would move it forward 67 times, 67, 68, 97, yeah, 67 times, and you would have this. Now, if you had a mural that was incredibly tall, and you've only got one loom, and you're thinking to myself, well, this is 12, that's one loom, and this is 24, and this is 36, and this is 48. How I haven't got enough looms to add to the top here, and this might be coming out all the way across. Now, I know it's not, but use your imagination here. So, what you have to do, we know that from a width point of view, we can go as long as we want, as wide as we want on a single loom. You just keep moving it forward. But what happens when you need to move it up, as if it was going this way? That's where my tutorial on the Australian flag came in. However, a lot of you say, I don't want to do the Australian flag. So I'm going to do a tutorial just to show you how you can link the pieces together. I'm not showing you how to read a pattern. We're not going to be making this. But what I do suggest is that when you get your pattern, you slice it into 12, 12, 12, 12, so you know exactly where you have to join your mural together. All right, so and we will use this for the sake of this particular example. Let's say, for example, we're going to be just doing a couple, and I'm just going to go 3 here and 3 here and show you how to join them. So if we were doing that, we would have to lay, now I'm going to be holding this here, this is your 12th, this is the 12th row, okay? This is your 12th row on your loom. For 13, that is where you're going to join to the next part up here to move it up. So what we need to do is lay the bands for 13. So this is 12, the one above it is 13, and as you can see, I'm only going to go a couple, I'll probably go five columns just to show you, or 6, whatever, just to show you. So we have to start here with a pair of white. We're going to put them here on the top of our loom, doing nothing, because they have to link up to the next mural. Now this is 13 because this is 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this is our going up to the next part that we need to join it to. So we have white, black and black. Okay, then we start our mural, and it is white, black and black. So we would put a pair, and it's all the columns are the same height. A pair of white. Now I'm going to follow this pattern just a little bit, just to be showing you. Then we have 2 black, and then the next bit is 2 white and a pair of black. And then the next bit is all whites, and we will just leave it at that. We'll pretend that's the end of our mural. We'll pretend that we're down here at the bottom of our loom, because this is just an example so that you don't have to go through the whole Australia flag tutorial and get worried. Now, if you have a look, if this was the end of what we're doing, we would put a white bands as our, not end cap, but white bands across here as the bottom of our mural, okay? And it is very important to work from the right to the left. We have to put a pair here to go across for when we do the move it forward. So we're doing move it forward this way and move it up this way. All right, so we've got our move it forward lead bands, then we're moving from the right to the left. That is very important. Okay, so we'll place our bands like that. Now I'm going to use an obnoxious colour for crossover bands, because even though I was saying to people you only spread the crossover bands for a minimum 3, for a maximum 6 pegs, I had somebody trying to pull them the entire length of the mural and asking me why their bands were breaking. You change crossover bands. So this is our first crossover band. This is our second crossover band. Now think about it. If this is going to link up to our next mural and you want it to be seamless, we need a crossover band there as well. So you're going to put a crossover band on the top of that also. Okay, now here, this is our starting point, and you're always going to need an end cap to start. So a single band, wrap it once and twice, and you place that on your hook and put it on the peg. Okay, when we do the murals, we always do this bottom row first and loop these bands to the right. Okay, so dig down. You might need to hold that little end cap. So as you've got your bands on your hook, hold that end cap in place so it doesn't fly off. Use a nail or whatever, grab that band, the 2 bands, and loop them to the right. You're going to loop the next one as well to the right, and then all you have left is the lead band to go to the next one when you're ready. We're only going to loop up these first 2 columns. Alright, and the reason we do the second one is to keep these crossover bands locked into place. Push the crossover bands back with the back of your hook. Now, the other thing, you can see that we have turquoise bands, the crossover bands. That's where you choose what colour you're going to use. If you don't have clear bands, what's going to show on the outside? If you used white, nobody's going to see it. Okay, so you've used the predominant colour that's going to be on the edge that is going to be visible. So if you don't have clear, use whatever is the outside bit. So now we're going to loop up our middle like this. What we're going to do with these is do a very loose slip knot. So we're going to loop it up like that, pop this on the end and do a slip knot. Now when I say very loose, not so loose that it's going to come apart, but don't pull it so tight that it's going to unravel and you're going to lose your work. So give it a tug, make sure it's secure, but don't, and you want to keep looking, you know, you babysit this, I guess is the right word to look for. Let's do the same for this one here. On your hook, make sure that the crossover band is between those 2 loops, and again do a slip knot. You will need to undo these slip knots. Okay, next we're going to take this off the loom. We're just going to take the first one off our loom because we're moving it forward. Okay, so you take the first column off. Now you would have gone all the way down, turn your loom over, and we budge everything forward with just these 2 little mini base plates. Leave the big ones holding the others and move your column of pegs forward. Okay, now I'm just going to do enough moving forwards to show you how to change these crossover bands. Okay, so what is our next colour? Let's have a look at our map. we're on 4 and we're laying the band for 13. Okay, so we go up here. 13 is a pair of black. So I'm going to take a pair of black and pop them here, doing nothing. 12 is a pair of black. And I'm following along what I'm doing here. If you need to have a pencil or pen or something and you're ticking it off as you go, you know, do that so that you know where you're at. Okay, then I have another pair of black here. And then white, because this is the row that we're pretending is our finish. I'm going to tick off, then I'm going to do a pair of white, and then I'm going to do a pair of lead white to go to the next column. Alright, so I put my lead white there and I drag these lead white across. Okay, now we know that we've only done 3 columns, 1, 2 and 3. This is 4, so this can stretch across quite happily. That's 4. The other thing you must remember is with your crossover bands, make them all equal. If you're going to stretch them across 4, do all of them across 4. If you're going to stretch them over 5, all of them over 5, so that they all have the same tension. I would recommend 5 for a larger mural. Do them all 5. If that means at the end of your mural you only have 3 left, that's okay. You can do it over 3. It doesn't really matter. So we've stretched our crossover bands. Dig down, grab the 2 white that move to the right and loop them in. Okay, then you're digging down and then you loop up your column. All the way. This crossover band is important. You're going to pull your lead bands for the move it up, get the other side, reclaim and do a slip knot, and then you take the second column off. Alright, I'm going to move things forward. There's our big base plate. Move our column of pegs. And again, let's have a look at what we're doing for 13. This time it's a pair of white. So we're going to put a pair of white here. I'm going to tick that off that I've done 13. And then it's another pair of white. I have a pair of black and a pair of white. So I'll do a pair of black. You can pick any picture you like as long as you can read the pattern, and this is reading the pattern. It's as easy as that. We need 2 white bands as our lead. Pop them on, drag these across. Now this is column 5. We're going to drag these across. We are changing bands for the next column. Dig down again. We have to do these bottom ones first. Loop them across, and you are looping it to the third column. Then you loop up your center. Pull this one taut. These loop it. These move it forward or move it up. Reclaim. Your crossover band is between them. Tie your slip knot, and we take this off our loom. Make sure these don't fall off. Turn things over. We will do one more just so that I can show you how to change crossover bands. And when you move it forward, you are making sure that you're always at the same height. Okay, so let's have a look now. We're on 6, and for 6 in 13, for row 13, which is up here, we want a pair of white. So put your white as your lead bands, and then we're doing another pair of white. and then a pair of black, and then a pair of white. And again, you need your lead bands for the border. Place them on the end here, and you drag these ones across. Okay, so this is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we said that we were going to spread these across 5. So what you do, you don't just place them here, because you're going to have a great big gap between 5 and 6. You need to place them on 5 and stretch to 6. Okay, so it's going to look like that. They're double on the double turquoise on those pegs. All right, when you come to loop up, you're going to loop to the right first, and then you loop up. So let's continue. We're going to take these 2 little ones, if I can get my fingers on them. Come here, you. There we go. Let's tie those in a slip knot. Make sure that the crossover band is between them. You've got 2 of them there. And take the first 2 over the other 2 and tie a slip knot. I can take this off our loom. Now I am going to go ahead and do 9, so that these are not sort of sitting looking rather lost and lonely, and you're going to get confused while we have these loose bands at the end. So move your base plate, and let's have a look at where we're at. We're going to be doing a couple of black, so we'll put 2 black for our lead for 13. I'm not sure if you can see what I'm doing here. There's 13 here, so black, black, white. So another pair of black, and then 2 pair of white. And for your pattern, you just keep following what the next square tells you to do. It really is a bit of a no-brainer. Put 2 here for your lead. Let's tick these off. Black, black, white, white. Like that. We're going to stretch these lead bands across. We've still got our other lead bands over here. Drag these across. As I said, these goes between 5. We did 5 for these crossover bands. We're going to do 5 for these to keep it all the same. They've gone through, as you can see, 1, 2 and 3. Dig down, grab the 2 bottom bands and loop them to the right. Then we're going to move up and use our lead bands here and tie them in a slip knot like so. Take this off. Very careful. This is the point that I always worry about, that it's going to come off, so just be careful of that. Let's move our small base plates forward. We're going to do 2 more of these columns, just so that we can say that we don't have loose bands lying around. So for this one, we're going to be doing 2 black and then white. So we'll do 2 black as our lead, another pair of black. No, I'm telling you fibs. 2 black as our lead, so let's tick those off, and then 3 pair of white. So here's 1. It's very easy to make a mistake if you're not ticking things off, so I really do recommend that. We're going to have 2 lead as white. Get those out of the way. Move our lead bands across. Stretch our crossover bands. So this is 4. Loop these across. So this will be 5, okay? For our lead bands anyway is what I'm talking about. for our crossover bands, I mean. Alright, let's grab these, tie them in a slip knot, like that. Now, take this off. This will be, we're pretending now that we've done 70 move it forwards, and this is our last one. We've done 69, this is our last one, this is number 70. So, with that being said, we still need to put our lead bands up the top because they've still got to connect to the mural above it. Alright, so I've got my 2 little lead bands here. I'm then going to be doing a pair of black. I'm going to tick that off. And then I have 2 pair of white. So 1 and 2. Now if you remember, if we're pretending that this is the end, this is column 70, we've done all of this hard work, we don't need lead bands because this is the end, so we just move these across, but we are going to stretch our crossover bands over. This is column number 5 for our crossover bands. Okay, dig down, we're going to loop this to the side, and we can now, because this is the end, loop both of these columns up at the same time. Okay, now please believe me, there's going to be no pattern here in this mural that we're making at all. It's just for showing you an example. So we're going to tie all of these off in our little slip knots, and we're going to take this off the loom. Okay, there's our slip knots. Be careful when you take it off the loom. And here we go. This is it off the loom. This is huge. We've gone over 70 columns. It's taken us forever, 3 days at least, with all our little loops. Okay, now let's say that we were doing another another portion, a middle portion. Okay, again you would do the same. You would put lead bands up here to go into your next 12. So we've done up to 13 here. So 13 is already done. This is 13, and that will be your bottom row. So we're starting here. Okay, now you want to look at your pattern and say, okay, so if 13 is being added, which will be added at the bottom, it's going to be 13 is going to be added here at the bottom of your loom. So you've got 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 25. Now I've only gone up to 24. You need to move it up here so that you know where you're going to be starting. Okay, so this is point 20, and you can fold your pattern over or whatever, but you know now that you need to lay your first band here at the top is going to be white. But guess what? If you're doing 36, if this is the end of your pattern, you need to put another white one up here as your lead. Okay, and it's going to go there. So you have to think about that. There is some thinking to do. Is your lead band going to be white? Then put your white, white, white. You've got 3 whites up there that you need. Now for us, we're down here, okay? And we're going to do the next 1, 2, 3, and 4, all right? So if where this red mark is our joining part, and we're going to say that this is where we join them all together, I need to actually start further down my loom. You will not. You will be starting at your normal spot up the top here. So for us, okay, let's put my ruler here so that we know what on earth we're doing. We're going to start from here, and we're going to say, okay, I have white, 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 and then it has to join here. So I need 4 columns. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so this is where we're going to start. We're going to pretend this is the top of our column. for our border, it's up to you what you want to do as a border, okay? I personally quite like to just have a border that's all white around it, or whatever is the predominant colour. You can just make it what these bands are. So if you wanted it to be, you know, black, white and white, you would do that. But I'm going to do white. So I'm going to start by, well, I'll put my lead bands here. Okay, they're going to be my lead bands. And you always go from the right to the left. And we're pretending that this is the top of my loom. So there we go. That's going to be my border. My border is going to be white. So I start with a pair of white. And again, I'm going to tick this off as I do it. A pair of white, a pair of white, a pair of white, and a pair of white. So these are all white, and I need 4. So 2, 3, and 4. Now the thing with this is that you're not going to be putting the bands acrossways over here, because you're going to be linking these in. So then I'm doing a pair of white, and I'm doing black all the way to the bottom. And I'm going to tick that off. I'm doing entirely black all the way down here. Like that. Okay, so there's my lead bands. Now remember, if you have another portion to add to the top, you are not putting these bands here. Okay, you would do exactly what we did for this. You would put these bands here would be sitting there as your move it up bands. Okay, so at this point we need some crossover bands. So again, I'm using my obnoxious colour. And again, if you were moving it up further, you would put a crossover band here as well, all right, because these would be going up to the next part. You are going to put a crossover band on this very bottom one, okay? But we need to do some fancy footwork first. So I'm going to move my pattern out the way for a second. This is the point where you want to make sure, firstly, that your mural bottom half is the correct way. You don't want it this way and have it attached the wrong way. This was the right way that we needed to do it, so you need to be able to mark that in some way. You're going to very gently take a hook or your fingernails or whatever, and you're going to undo that first slip knot, okay? And you're going to put the first 2 bands on here, and then you're going to put the crossover band, and I'm going to just stretch it across to the second, but I do need to lift it. You're then going to put your next 2 white bands on top. For the black crossover band, as I said, let's take this off now, because we need to put the bottom 2 bands on first. So let's release the hounds, sorry, undo your slip knot here, and this is the fiddly bit, but once it's all done, if you can get these other bands out of the way, there we go. So poke your hook through, release that little slip knot. You're going to be putting these 2 first black bands on here, then the crossover band, and then the other side. And you don't want to lose those bands. Get out of the way. 1 and 2. Okay, so we've got 2 there. Let's release the next one. Push your hook through, release the slip knot, put these 2 bands on, stretch the crossover band over, and again put your next 3 there. Okay, so all you're going to do is dig down and loop up, dig down and loop up. Now I've only looped the 2, I haven't looped this one in. Okay, I'm going to take this and move it across like that. I'm going to take this off because remember we still have to do the move it forward technique to get the width that we need for here. Okay, so let's turn our loom over, move these mini base plates, move our column because that's now become free. Again, remember, keep it the right. Let's see, what colours do we need now? So we did column 3, which was all black. Column 4 is going to be all black, but I'm going to start my border. I've chosen to make it white. I'm going to pull these over because I'm pretending that this is the top of my mural. Again, if I wasn't, these would all be left loose like this to go to the next section. And we're going to do all black double banding. And this is column number 4. Drag your crossover bands over. Now, if you remember, we need to come down here, undo our slip knot, and I tend to pinch just below where the slip knot is. I pinch that with my fingers because I want these 2 bands to go on first, the 2 loops. I drag the crossover band over and then I grab the second loops, the second 2 loops, the top half like that. Okay, and then we're going to loop up the middle column. If I can find those 2 bottom bands without grabbing every other band that's around. There we go. Loop to the side like that, and then we take this column off. Again, be careful with what's happening here, you don't want that off. Move around. Okay, so that was number 4. We're now doing number 5, which again we're going to put our lead as a couple of white bands, then we have a pair of black bands and 2 pair of white, so a pair of black, 2 pair of white and a pair of black. Now let's drag our crossover bands. This is number 5, so what do we do on number 5? We have to change crossover bands on the next column. I'm not going to drag this one over just yet. I want to put the bottom half, the 2 bottom loops of this on first. Okay, so I'm going to undo my slip knot, make sure I've sort of got them half and half so that if I pull these across I'm not losing the top half. So I'm going to pull these across to here, pull my crossover band over and put these next 2 on like so. Now, thinking about this, we need, as I said, a new crossover band to go across. It's going to be very easy to put a new crossover band here to just stretch it across. But here we need a lead band because we're on number 5. So before we put those on, we should really put a lead band of our crossover band. Okay, so that's going to be our crossover band that we stretch across for the next 5. Dig down. And that's quite an important step, otherwise you're sort of lifting bands here, there and everywhere. And it's not hard, but it's a fiddle factor you can avoid. Keep your finger on this second column so that you don't lose anything. And move your mini base plates. As I said, this can go as high as you like. We haven't dragged this one across. If you had another thing to attach it to, that would go there. So let's drag this one across. It doesn't matter because we haven't looped this in yet. Move your columns forward. Now let's lay the bands. This is column number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we start with our pair of white as our border. Then we have a pair of black. As you can see, I'm following here. There's black. We have 2 pair of white. And then we have a pair of black. We're going to change our crossover bands. So remember what I said? We have to place them on top of the other crossover band. If you just place them here, you have this gap and they're not joined. So place them on column 5 and stretch to 6. It's a single band. Column 5, stretch to 6. Column 5, stretch to 6. Here is our lead band. Handy that it's there for us because we don't need to lift things up. What we're going to do first, before we place this across, let's undo our little slip knot. There we go, make sure they're even. Put our first 2 loops on. Move our crossover band so it's in between like a little sandwich. Grab our next 2 loops and put them on. Okay, we've got this one that can come across here as well. There we are. And we can loop up. Now let's loop this one across. Oh, no, we've got to loop this one up first, don't we? Silly me. And then we loop this one across. There we go. Hey, get back on. Alright, let's take this column off. Keep your fingers on column 2 so that we don't lose anything. And as this gets bigger and bigger, you sort of have to squidge it down a bit. Move our base plate. So we just did 6. We're going to do 7. So let's see where we're at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're on 7. We're starting with our white lead. Oh, let's move the column of pegs so we have something to put our bands on. There we are. A pair of white. Then we have another pair of white. And we have a pair of black. Oh, that's not going to write. Another pair of black. And we finish with a pair of white. Now these are our new crossover bands, so we can drag these across. I'm not going to drag the bottom one across just yet. If you remember why, we're going to undo our slip knot and put those first 2 loops on. Okay, so there's our little band. Put our 2 on, drag the crossover band over now, and this is when we will put our next two on, like that. Drag these two across and we will loop up, and you'll see that there's no stitching of the two parts together. It all becomes seamless, which when you're making a mural is pretty nice. Let's take this off. Move our base plates. Move our column of pegs, and then we will start with number 8. So number 8, we have 2 white lead bands, and then we're having 2 pair of white, 2 pair of white, and then 2 pair of black. Tick these off, and we need to attach our little slip knot. That was clever. If that happens, just poke your hook through your white bands. It's not the end of the world. Grab your black bands and pull them back through. We'll attach one there, move our crossover, we'll attach the next there. Just pinch it tight. When something like that happens, pinch it tight so that you don't lose more than you need to. Slide those across and we loop up. Okay, this is going to be our last column for the exercise. We're pretending that we're up to 70 now, aren't we? So we're going to do, we don't need a lead band because that's going to go across as our lead band. We are going to need a pair of white, but then let's move these lead ones over like that because this is the end. We have a pair of black, and then we have 2 pair of white. Drag your crossover bands over. Not these bottom ones because we have to do this little slip knot first, don't we? Things out the way. So undo your slip knot. Carefully this time, not like I did last time. The 2 bottom ones, poke your hook through, but make sure you keep a hold of those 2 top ones. Pop the 2 bottom ones through first, move the crossover band over, and then you put those other top 2 bands loops on. Now because this is the end, you can loop both of those columns up at the same time, if you can find all the bands. There we go. As you can tell, when you have the predominant colour for the crossover bands, not like I have, I've got the obnoxious colour to show you, it would show through here. If you were using white, it would show through the black, whereas most of this is white. That's why we try to tend to use clear if we have it. When you get to this point, you're going to need to tie off. Again, choose the predominant colour, and you just do a normal tie off, which is 2 bands looped to the back of this peg. Take the 2 over and off and pull tight. Let's take this off the loom. And remember what I said, if you had a third section, a fourth section, a fifth section, instead of doing the bands that would go across, you leave them to go up like you did with this bottom section. So that's how, well, that's our little square that we've done anyway. You can see that it's all the same tension. If you wanted it tighter, you would go across 6. You hide these down the middle, have these pegs. You poke your hook through like that and pull them back, and then just gently hide them in amongst everything else. And that is how you attach. So that's 2 looms. This is, you know, this would be 2 looms worth. You can do more, you can do less. It really doesn't matter. You can go as long or as wide as you like. You can go as high as you like with the move it up technique and the move it forward technique. Okay, so the move it up is where you have the 2 loops at the top and you tie them off into a little slip knot. I hope that makes things easier for you. If not, give me a yell. Take care.